Hey y'all, I'm fixing to plant some, or take some propagations from some Cuphea. Now I have a few different kinds. I have the new proven winter kind for this year that really doesn't look like the regular Cuphea, like the Vermillionaire. And I'm going to show y'all, I'll probably go ahead and take some cuttings from the Vermillionaire too, although I really don't need to because it can't, it said it could come back in a zone 7, and mine did, but I had propagated some last year, which I planted out, and I'll show y'all that. It got pretty good size before this growing season was over. So let's go get started taking some cuttings. Okay, you can see I've got 3 different kinds here, and I'm going to take cuttings from each one. I did leave the tags so I know what they are. We're going to take mainly tip cuttings from these. I'm going to start with this red one here. This one is called Totally Tempted Watermelon. And I'm going to go ahead and pull these and take them with me. That way I can just stick them in my little trays and I know what's what. Now these kind of look a little rough. These didn't get as much sun as they would like. And so what I'm going to do is just come in here. I'm going to go back to probably about 6 or 7 inches and just take some cuttings. And you want to look for cuttings that, stems that don't look terrible, if they've got like newer green growth, that's kind of what you're looking for. I'm going to take about 4. And the reason I'm doing that is because a lot of times your cuttings won't, all of them won't take. And it doesn't matter about this plant at this point. It looks, like I said, it looks rough. And I'm not planning to dig these up. I'm just going to lay my tag with those, and then I'm going to take some cuttings from this next one. This one's called Totally Tempted Frosted Violet. I'm just going to do the same thing here. I'm just going to go in and take some cuttings about 6 or so inches long. This one's the Totally Tempted Vivid Violet. It just had really pretty flowers on it. Now you could dig these up and cut them back if that's what you wanted to do. And overwinter the whole plant. This is the one that came back from last year. And you can see it's not very big, but it's mostly shaded here. It needs to be in full sun. I'm going to show y'all the two that I actually took cuttings off of this one last year, rooted and overwintered, and I'll show you the difference in the size because they are in full sun. Now this is one plant right here. It goes all the way up there. It's actually running through the trellis right now. This is one plant. Looks like a small bush. And then there's one on the other side. You can see this one. This is also a Cuphea. Like I said, this one's called Vermillionaire. I'm going to go ahead and take a few cuttings off of this one. I really don't have to because it's probably going to come back for me. But we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to take tip cuttings. We're going to go back about 6 inches and cut. You want to take about 4 of those. 4 to 6, whatever your preference is with it. As far as how many you think you might need. Plus, like I said, you don't want to, you want to make sure you're going to have some for next year, because probably not every cutting that you take is going to root. So I'll probably pop off 6 here. Okay, let's go get them put in the dirt. So I'm going to show y'all what I'm going to do here. And now I will say these root very easily. If you've ever rooted petunias, they're a lot like a petunia. I actually had one of these root during the summertime, just laying over on another pot that had something in it. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take all the blooms off. Don't leave any blooms on. And the very tip of the growth, we're going to cut it off just like that. I like to start really at the bottom and get the leaves off and then work my way to the top. And before you get all the way to the top, you want to stop, because you want to figure out what leaves you want to keep. I'm going to cut this bigger one off. You're only going to need about 2 leaves here, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this and this other leaf. I'm going to leave these 2 bigger ones. You're just going to have a stem that looks about like that, which, you know, looks puny, looks like not much. And I'm going to go ahead and cut some of this end off right under a leaf node. You can see where the leaves were coming out. And then all you're going to do is you're just going to make some holes in the dirt. You're just going to stick them in. Now I'll have to add a little more dirt to this pot once I get it filled up. And so if you've got one that's like this, where it's got side shoots, just go ahead and take off the big one, the more woody one. You don't need it. And both of these will actually propagate. I'm just going to go ahead and cut one off of the other, just like that. And now you're not going to want this woody part. You can cut it off, but I usually wait until I get all these leaves off. And you can, sometimes it's easier to pull them, but if you're not careful, these are so tender, you'll break it. And so I'm just going to cut them all the way to the top, just like that. Figure out what 2 leaves I'm going to leave, because 2 is all you're going to need. You don't want the very top growth, because you don't want it shooting out new blooms when you're trying to let it root. I'm just going to leave two little leaves like that, and then I'm going to come down here and cut off right under a leaf node, about right here. And that's all you're going to have, and that's what you're going to stick in the dirt. And so I'll go ahead, since I've done 2 and showed y'all. Now you want to bury them, which, like I said, I got to add some more dirt. You just really want to leave maybe the top ½ inch or so sticking up out of the dirt, and everything else gets buried. These stems have little, kind of like, well, like I said, like a petunia, they have little hair, little hairs growing off of them. Most of the time, if you're trying to propagate a plant like that, it's pretty easy to propagate. And so I'm going to go ahead and get these. I'll go ahead and get this pot filled up, and then I'll bring y'all back. Now we're going to do the Vermillionaire. And these cuttings, what I'm going to do is, now you see they have side shoots, that you actually can root the side shoots. And I am going to take a few of those cuttings, but I'm going to get some of the ones. I have one over here that's got they're a little longer, so I'll probably do those instead of these. And so what I'm going to do is just basically strip this. Just like that. And before you get to the top, you want to stop. And what I'm going to do is, you see the top up here? You go ahead and pull a few more of these off. I'm going to take and I'm going to cut the whole top out of this. Just like that. You're only going to need to leave about 2 leaves. You can leave 3 or 4, but 2 is better, I think. And then it's just going to look something like that. And you're not going to need this whole thing. So I'm going to come down to probably about, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 inches. And I'm going to cut right under where there was a set of leaves. And that's all you're going to need right there. And I'm just going to stick it in the dirt. And I'm going to do several of these. I'll go ahead and show y'all. Like, this one has longer side shoots. So you can pop one of these off. It's easier to just strip these because they have a little woodier stem. And then what I'm going to do is just take off the whole top center. Just like that. You don't want to have any blooms on there. And I'm just going to leave 2 leaves. And I know these look tiny, but when these root and actually start growing in the spring, I mean, I showed y'all they make basically little bushes. That's what they look like to me. And I'm just going to continue on. I'll go ahead and take another side shoot. Just strip it like that. And then take out the center part. Just like that. And I'm going to leave 2 leaves again. And that's it. That's really all there are to Roten Vermillionaire. Like I said, I did it last year. And it turned out just fine. Now we got all of them potted up. Now, you make sure you label them. Now, last year, I can't remember if I put these in a baggie or a container or if I just left them out. I think I just left them out. But your Vermillionaire, because it's a little woodier stem, you might have better luck if you put it in a bag or if you put it in a container like I did the lantana. And if you were going to do that, all you would do, stick it in the bag. And if you have leaves that are touching the sides, you can just take your little skewer, break it in half, or, whatever piece of wood you want to use to kindly hold the bag off of the leaves. And then you would just seal it up and set it near a window, but not in direct sun. If you're putting this in a container or propagating it outside under a shade tree or somewhere like that, you would want to, you just need to keep a watch on it and make sure it doesn't dry out. The bag just helps hold in a little more humidity. If you don't want to do this, you can just, a couple times a week mist the leaves, and, they should root in about 2 to 3 weeks. And once they root, then you take them out of the bag. You don't want to leave them in the bag once they've rooted. But if you notice that there's getting too much water in the bag, then you'll just want to open the bag for a little while, let it air out some. I'm probably not going to put these in a bag. I'll probably just stick them in the container with a lantana. But, like I said, just don't set them in a sunny window. Set them near a window where they can get indirect light and not direct light. And I will go ahead and say, if you're not used to propagating, if you were wondering why you cut under leaf nodes, that's because when you strip the leaves and and then you cut under a leaf node, where you had leaves before is where you're going to get your new roots. And so that was the purpose of that. And so anyways, if you were looking to propagate Vermillionaire, or both types are Cuphea, this and the other that I showed y'all, the totally tempted versions. And so if you was looking to propagate Cuphea, I'll just say it that way, then I hope this helps. Until next time, bye.